All right. Welcome everyone to the Illuvium Town Hall. Hello, Kieran. We have Steven here as well. We got a really good town hall for you guys today. I'm super excited about it. I saw this presentation a little while ago. If you guys are watching live, why don't you let me know that you can hear us as well, just so I know. But yeah, this presentation was awesome when I saw it internally. I thought all the teammates had seen it, but I guess not all of them have seen it. So I'm excited for some of the other people to get a look at it too internally, and then the community, because yeah, it was a really good eye opener for what these guys are experts in, and for what's possible. I really enjoyed it, so I think it's going to be really exciting to get their ideas for the MMO-Lite. And yeah, like I said, we have Steven and Kieran here. Kieran, how you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. Early as always on Friday, so it's good.
Yeah,
Keeps me on the toes.
we were considering doing
Uh,
Saturday, so you got lucky. So
yeah, no, let's keep it there. I'm happy. But yeah, before we throw it over to Stephen and Trevor is unfortunately still trying to connect, so we had a bit of an issue with Discord there to start, but. Yeah, to sort of set the scene before we throw it over to the guys to start digging into the presentation. We really want this is the first step to building in a super open, transparent way with the community. There's a lot of it's a big transformation that the overworld is going to go through. There's a lot of stuff which we were already thinking. There's a lot of new stuff that the guys have introduced. And so we really want to make it a very open process over the next, all the way right up until launch, and have as many of these town halls as possible, as many open dialogues with people that are playing the game. We've also got the overworld testers that we're going through, who have put in applications to become one of those like official testers. That is going to be drawn upon quite a bit throughout this process. But we also just want to be really, really transparent with where we're at in terms of progress as we build through this. We'll talk to you a little bit about timelines, or the guys will talk to you about timelines. Just making it very, very clear these are super high level. We haven't actually started development on the overworld yet, but we still want to try and keep you as informed as possible. And while none of these dates will be set in stone, it will give you a bit of an idea of when to start expecting things, when you think you'll be playing the game for the first time, whether that be in like a super early stage, like a pre-alpha or whatever. It's to give you guys an idea of what's going on, and that really, really does start from today. And we want you guys to hold us accountable as well. If you feel like at any stage things have gone a little bit dark, or there's an area which maybe isn't so clear, speak up. Speak to the moderators, speak to a council member. You can always message me or any of the other guys. I also encourage you guys to be speaking regularly to the two game directors. But we want to make sure that you feel comfortable in doing that, and we want to make sure that you, while we can't obviously, get into the nitty gritty with every single individual person, we want to keep that dialogue open. So that's it from me for now. I will welcome Stephen in, and hopefully Trevor is not too far behind him. But Discord is a little bit finicky. But yeah, thanks for being with us, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for.
You should be able to use your cam in
having us
just a
here.
second, I think.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I can't turn anything on. But
I have to give you some server XP because you're new, so I'm trying to real quick. Give me 1 sec. But yeah, Trevor or Steven, welcome.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think everything Kieran just said makes a lot of sense, and I kind of want to echo some of that and just say we're excited. Like, I love being able to be this transparent. I want to hear from everyone, so please reach out to me or Trevor or both if you guys have impressions. We'd love to hear it. Also, this is all like very early, very like changing daily. So, don't try not to get too pumped about any particular part of it. We're still working out a lot in both the design and the execution, but it's great to be able to share early so that we hear from y'all from the start. How's my XP?
I'm trying right now. I don't know if the bot's broken or what. Just give me 1 minute. Discord is obviously having major issues today, so yeah, I'm trying to get you hooked up. But yeah, why don't you give us? I know we met you on the podcast already. We met you and we met Trevor on the podcast, but not everybody listens. So I was gonna have you also just give a little bit of intro about your background, gaming background, how you got here, and and then we can jump into the presentation in just a minute. Yeah,
you bet. I'll do a short version. I worked for a little over 10 years at CCP on EVE Online, and then for the last 2 years as a lead and founder on EVE Frontier, which is EVE CCP's Web3 project. So, hey, we got a Trevor.
Yep.
So, my background is really focused on systems and economy stuff, because that's really laced through all the EVE design. It's important for almost anything that happened in that game to be economically minded and think of things in a player-driven ecosystem. So I have a lot of background there. And then I did a little stint at PAX Day, which is at Mainframe making PAX Day, which is a bunch of CCP like OG founders trying to do kind of a fantasy sandbox with a lot of EVE DNA, but with a little more crafting and stuff like that. And then now I'm here and pretty excited. It's been like a little over a month, and me and Trevor have been getting up to speed quick and trying to put together a plan for what we're doing next, or what we're doing with Overworld.
Nice. And we got Trevor now. Trevor, can you hear us? Is your mic working now? Discord's up, hopefully.
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Nice.
Cool.
All right, Trevor, same thing. Welcome. And I just wanted to have you give a little intro as well so everyone can get to know you that hasn't spoken to you yet.
For sure. I'll also do the abridged version. I started off at Blizzard working on World of Warcraft. Actually started there in customer support and got on the Quest team through a temp assignment. Was on the Quest team for about 8 years, making a lot of cool stuff. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft at all, I led production on Drustvar in Battle for Azeroth. I did a ton of content in Stormheim and the Shadowlands intro, among a lot of other things. I since then moved over to Scopely to work on an unannounced project. Did some time over on Kingdom Maker, which is a 4X RTS. Worked over at Playgig for a bit, which was a MOBA with RPG elements. So kind of got a little bit of extra experience from a bunch of different types of genres after my Blizzard time, and now back in the MMO world, making cool stuff. So super excited to be here.
Nice, nice. Kieran, if you can, sorry, if you can, yeah, okay. Yeah, we're gonna get you guys on camera in just a minute, but okay, I think we got you now. There we go. Now we're looking good.
Gabby?
There we go. Yep, we got you guys. Good deal. Look at this.
We did it.
Awesome. I wasn't sure what role to give you. I was about to give you admin roles for a second, just because no Jeremy here, but awesome, we got him.
Yeah. So yeah, I think now that we got the intros over with, everyone wants you guys probably to dive right into this. So yeah, I don't know which one of you is gonna start first, but let's hear it.
Let me go ahead and do the screen share here.
Okay. And you guys, just so you know, this is all live, and so it'll be recorded, so you can rewatch it. If you guys hold off on your questions, just put them in either the chats on the streams or in the Discord, and I'll gather them for a little session at the end. We'll take some more Q&A. So, let's see. Got here.
All right, we all seeing this okay?
I am seeing it okay.
Yeah, I guess I really do need to I really do need to upgrade my cap game.
Very important.
You know. All right.
Usually
so,
I don't go with a cap, but yeah, it's too early for my hair.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I was going to get a haircut, and then my wife cuts hair, but she didn't do it last night. And I was like, well, I'm just going to shave my head before the thing. And yeah, I was like, they told me not to. So here I am, hat.
Do that on stream after this is over.
Yeah, we could. If Kieran can beat me.
Cool.
I've only ever seen you take dead last, Rich. Careful.
It's been rough. It's been rough.
Yeah, if I can beat you, then anybody can.
Oh, man, even the new guys are ripping on me. Okay.
Yeah, we know how it goes.
Yep.
Cool. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm just going to kind of get this intro. Me and Steven are going to switch back and forth on some of these topics. But just to kind of start everybody out, this is we're talking about Overworld, and we're talking about the direction that we are looking at going in, and just kind of some of how we got there and where we're going. So this is just kind of like a little overview of what we're going to be talking about. So just a bit about the journey like so far with the project, what we're proposing to do with it. We're going to talk some more like a little deeper about progression, content, and then we're going to go over what we're planning for the vertical slice, which is going to be kind of like the first playable iteration of all of it. So just to kind of get started on the journey so far. So when Steven and I got here, like we noticed very quickly a lot of very strong things already built into this. This is actually like we realized that there's so much here to work with that a big part of our job is just trying to put all of the different pieces together in a way that makes a cohesive game that people want to play for hours and hours on end. So we've got the Illuvials. The Illuvials are great. They have awesome art. They're super unique. They have awesome lore. And then we've got the cross-title utility with them being built on the blockchain. Like that makes it so we've got that unique USP there. For as far as combat goes, if you've seen any of the videos for the Breach prototype and leaks, we've played around with that a bunch, and it's really fun. It's very engaging, so it shows that we already have the first steps going for combat. And then traversal, anybody who's played Overworld knows that it's got great traversal mechanics already built into it, and it definitely like immediately struck me with vibes of stuff like Breath of the Wild, Genshin Impact, that type of stuff, like something where you could really just spend a lot of time exploring the world. So we also identified some challenges So the art fidelity is very high. Model environment art is very highly detailed. So optimization for lower end users is a little difficult, but that's something that we're going to want to tackle. The Illuvials needed to be more central to the gameplay and content so that we can reinforce their importance. We want Illuvials to be kind of front and center for Overworld as well. The Ranger itself didn't really have a whole lot of meaningful progression, so that's absolutely something that we're going to need to tackle. And then, of course, the lack of content. There really isn't much content that exists in Overworld, and so like there's a big sandbox there. We just need to fill it up with cool stuff. And then this is just kind of like a look at some of the market analysis that we did on this, just to see like where our comps are. And there's basically a couple takeaways from this. So the first set of takeaways is that cross-platform open world ARPGs currently are significantly out-earn traditional MMORPGs and looter shooters, which were kind of like some of the other places that we were looking at, because the game has this unique combination of shooter gameplay and MMO gameplay. And then also, it's always worth considering going the traditional MMO route. But it seems that the best route to go with this is more of that open world ARPG style. And then also another thing is that mobile actually represents the biggest opportunity space here. We have a lot of work to be able to get something like Overworld onto mobile, so it's not something that we're like thinking of tackling like immediately, but we want to try and set ourselves up in such a way that we're not making it so it's impossible to eventually get there. And then also there's some complications with mobile because it's difficult really to spin up a new sci-fi IP in mobile, but we're in a little bit of a different spot with that because of the crypto following that we have is a lot more people that are keen on trying to do something like this on mobile. So that's kind of like where we came from. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Steven so that he can talk about what we're thinking of doing.
All right, you gonna flip slides for me?
Yeah, sorry, I was just waiting for you to talk.
I'm here.
Cool.
Yeah, so we just wrote up a quick kind of vision statement just to get a feel for what we're trying to get. Overworld's an action-packed, rich world discovery, story, and mystery. Focusing a lot on our IP, which is really strong, really big narrative behind it, really awesome aesthetic already. Your ranger will grow and specialize as you explore distinct environments and discover alluvials. You'll find artifacts, craft unique gear, upgrade your drone as you move deeper into the wilderness in search of the perfect companion. Join with friends to battle rare and difficult creatures in breaches or the far-off areas of the overworld and uncover the mysteries of a strange new world. Looking at a lot of inspiration from different comparable stuff, I think we have a really unique opportunity to be this combination kind of action RPG and creature collector with MMO elements as well. Like Trevor said, we're looking at Genshin or Tower of Fantasy. Also, like personally, super inspired games like Path of Exile, and then leaning a little more towards MMO and creature collector as well. But I feel like there's so much stuff to draw on that fits really well into kind of what we have already. So just have that there as some comparables to think about. So with that in mind, key features, ARPG content, combat, like Trevor said, Breach combat is really fun already, even though it's just a fast prototype. We want to pull that in and flesh it out so that we have something that's exciting and dynamic, very position focused, rather than kind of a traditional slow-paced MMO combat, but we're going to find some balance there that we're looking at. Again, we have this strong IP that can drive our content. So we have lore, we have the opportunity to pull that in as quests, as exploration, new narrative systems, dungeons. A lot of the things you would normally think about in an RPG are kind of waiting to be made based on how strong the IP is. Ranger depth and build stuff is a huge piece for me. Building out, really strong, meaningful progression for rangers where you can upgrade and specialize and do it in a way that really matches our ecosystem, which I think there's a lot of unique opportunities there, and we'll talk about that a little more in a bit. And then, of course, the MMO part, multiplayer elements, open world multiplayer, traditional kind of MMO pieces like dungeons and raids, world bosses, as well as community building stuff, making it more social, where you can have guilds, friends, kind of emergent interactions with people while you're out doing stuff. Lots of exciting opportunity there as well. Yeah, so moving into the progression stuff a little more, and again, grain of salt, this is all like moving fast, but there's a lot here that Trevor and I, as well as the team, are excited about, and it's been developing quick, but we're trying to get it pinned down so we can start getting into the game as soon as possible. Sustainability is obviously huge and challenging in Web3. There's a lot of pressure on assets, a lot of like economic conscientiousness that needs to go into how everything's designed. We want to make sure there's strong sinks, strong reasons to burn or use assets so we don't end up with inflation problems. And we've already got some pretty cool stuff outlined that we can use there to keep kind of demand pressure high, even though there'll be probably a lot of activity putting pressure on supply. This is just something we want to have in mind at all times. Trying to move towards variety and creativity. I think it's felt exciting to think about progression systems that are more open-ended, very deep, offer a lot of room for personalization and playstyle creativity. Do that through a lot of combinatory design. One thing that I think is really unique about our potential here is the combination of sort of traditional action RPG or MMO elements in your character progression, but then having Illuvials alongside it gives us lots of kind of, combination opportunities in the way that your character gets built and progressed. And also introducing randomized elements, which I think also lend really well to Web3, because then you have both unique decisions to make as a player, but also potentially very unique assets, which could be super valuable. Staying true to kind of Illuvium, the Illuvium ecosystem, and how we design all of this is a big deal. We really want to lean on the IP. We really want to try and stay coherent with other Illuvium products and use them as an inspiration. So we're looking a lot at what's exciting about Arena and the way that Illuvials are designed for Arena as an inspiration for what they can be in Overworld. And I hope we can continue doing that. Seems like just a strong way to reinforce the entire Illuvium ecosystem. And then the reality for us as we start trying to build this out is that our team is small and scrappy, and we want to look at procedural elements, want to look at system-based design that can give us a lot of this depth without a ton of manual kind of handcrafted. Those pieces will exist, but we want strong systems, and we have very smart people here to try and set those systems up. I've been so impressed talking with people in the design team and people in the economy team and leadership about kind of being able to lean into this a lot more than leaning into, heavily manual design for a lot of the progression and content. So looking at a couple more specific pieces for Rangers, leveling up, unlocking new abilities, the ability to use new Illuvials, and just raw power, kind of obvious, but it's not there right now. We're talking a lot about a unique class system that's really based on synergies and affinities, much more than traditional RPG stats. So rather than something like strength and intelligence determining your character performance or the gear you can use, really trying to parallel Arena in that your synergy investment and how many earth points your character has might set up what kind of weapons or what kind of Illuvial you're able to use, what kind of stats your character has. And then because of that, we're able to lean into that in the way that your gear, your Illuvial companion combine to define how your character plays and what it does. So if you're getting synergies granted from your companion to your character, you're choosing items that grant high amounts of synergies, maybe that puts you really far down a progression track where you get really sick Omega abilities, or you get to use tier 5 Illuvials or whatever it is. And that seems like a great way to kind of leverage the stuff that's already here in the ecosystem, and at the same time create a really unique feeling progression with a lot of kind of new choices. Pretty excited about that. And then expand on drones, look at them as a new another kind of progression track where you gain utility, and you see some of the kind of things that are there in Overworld now, but with more impact and more options as well. So this is very sketchy. This is like we're mocking up stuff and talking about it, but this is kind of talking a little more about that synergy system idea. So you're working your way up tracks. Maybe this turns into some kind of web tree. Maybe it looks a little different than this, but the idea is you're trying to build up investment into certain synergies or classes. And as you do that, you're both gaining kind of raw power in your stats, but you're also unlocking things and maybe even combining things. So you're an empath, there's an empath ability, but when you get high enough fire alongside it, that becomes a fire empath ability. Weapon unlocks, Illuvial companion unlocks, and abilities would all be placed on this track, and you could kind of build your character in a really open-ended way to pick and choose the pieces you want. And that's this composite thing. It also gives us a tool. I'm sure something a lot of you think about is how we're going to deal with the fact that people already own a lot of Illuvials, and how is that not going to kind of run over the content or the progression that we build out for Overworld. We want those Illuvial assets to be important and you to feel happy that you have them. We don't want to kind of cut them out of this at all, but having some system like this where your range of progression gates the power that you can get right away can keep things healthier by making sure you need to play through and invest in your character before you get the full power from the assets you already own. And then this just seems like a way to get, because of the combination, so much potential for build creativity and kind of a unique feel for each player, which is very fun. Go ahead. We want to work on equipment a lot. I mean, right now, equipment grants you travel abilities. They get upgraded as you upgrade gear. There's so much opportunity for this to do more. We're talking about adding more slots. We'll see how that goes. That's probably not happening super soon because it means creating more assets, but definitely exciting potential there. We want to look at something more like an ARPG Aphex or mod system where each piece of gear is unique. You're trying to chase one that has the certain synergy rolls you want, or you're trying to chase one that has base damage plus a certain amount of synergy or whatever. There's already a lot of work that's been done in the past by members of the design team on kind of laying out how an Aphex system like this could work. And I feel like as soon as we get this hooked up to all the really cool items we already have, there's just going to be kind of an explosion of, build optimization and loot hunting, which is all super fun. Yeah, and I've talked about this some, but synergy is granted from gear. So if we have your progression as your synergy level or class level, then that can weave into the way the gear rolls, and we can create a bunch of interesting choices about whether you'd rather go for more raw stats, certain procs on items or effects, or whether you're trying to just get to some synergy threshold as fast as you can because there's something cool waiting on at the end of that. And along with a couple other things that I think creates really cool item trade-offs and item hunting. And then of course, having some chase stuff, some cool like boss items or unique items that unlock certain builds or abilities also sounds super appropriate with what we have here. Illuvial is of course a huge piece. One of the kind of first things we need to do is pull arena combat as the Illuvial capture mechanism out of Overworld. So finding them, we want that to be special rather than Illuvials being kind of the standard NPCs that are around in the world. We'll put some other stuff there and then make Illuvial finding and capturing a little more rare, a little more special. You'll have to do some kind of battling and then capture mechanic, which we haven't figured out all of that yet. And then kind of the big thing, companions fighting at your side. Really exciting piece of this that we're talking about is that you would have an Illuvial companion with you that's fighting all the time, but you would have a stable of 2 or 3 that you could dynamically swap depending on what's going on in a certain encounter, or depending on what your party looks like, when you make that swap, you get ability triggers and change kind of the, maybe you need to be tanky at one time, so you pull out a tanky Illuvial and get some shield when it comes out, and then you get to run with that until you're not taking damage anymore. I think that can just contribute to that super dynamic kind of action RPG combat where you're managing the Illuvial companion a lot. And then finding synergies, finding ones that match up for you, or finding ones that match the synergy investment you've made so that you can get the most powerful thing possible to go with your build. For economy stuff, we talked about this a ton. Starting out, we've been talking more about content and progression for the last little bit, but obviously want to improve access, changing at least the role fuel plays in Overworld so that there isn't a big barrier to participation, so we can get more people in the ecosystem. That doesn't mean removing fuel's relevance. I'm at least, I think it's important to make landholders and fuel owners feel like there's value there, and that Overworld contributes to that value and to that demand. So we'll look for homes for that don't keep people from playing. And then on the other side of that, because like I was saying, there's Illuvial ownership and other asset ownership already that could catapult people through the stuff we made. We're looking at solutions to make sure those assets are relevant and that people want them and that you can buy them, but that they don't immediately kind of unleash chaos on whatever content and progression we make. So we can build it out so that that's kind of gated little by little as you invest in Overworld. We still want a lot of the things that people love here now, being able to buy packs, being able to kind of invest in yourself in a Web3 way, but also want to look at ways to move towards player-driven solutions for that wherever we can, whether that means discs dropping in Overworld or purchases in other parts of the ecosystem influencing activity by creating contracts that drive demand, that kind of thing. And at the same time, we want to move some of the stuff, we want to move pieces of this progression and pieces of this content off chain so that Overworld has a little stronger authority over how you move through the game. But there's a balance there. We want definitely to stay connected to the overall ecosystem and to Zero and to Arena. We're just going to make sure there's a balance there so that Overworld's got healthy trade-offs in it. And like I was saying earlier, also look at new ways to burn assets or new ways to drive demand. It's a huge priority as well. Yeah, and just talk for some of the economy health stuff, talking about, cook times, looking at ways to use gotcha examples or other stuff that exists to slow down more kind of exploitative free players, and then using progression and investment in Overworld as a way to also make sure that the assets that exist influence Overworld in a healthy way. Yeah, and like I was just saying, more player-driven stuff where you're creating assets that are important. Those are getting traded with other people in the ecosystem rather than always like a direct kind of something we're minting and handing to you, something that's created through Overworld and then moves around the ecosystem organically. Yeah, and this is just a little sketch Trevor drew up of some gotcha kind of time investment and kind of free-to-play stuff that we can use if we want to slow down asset creation, especially for completely free players. And now over to Trevor for some content discussion.
Yes, indeed. All right, so
You're
we've also
muted,
got,
brother.
Oh no, we can hear him. I can hear him.
Oh, never mind. I just can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So
My
Steven
headset's
can't
not
hear,
hearing me.
but everybody else can hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. We're good.
Cool. All right. So yeah, we're gonna look into some cool content because you got to get when you have all of those really cool systems and all of those options, you have to have something to do with them, and that's what we're gonna see right now. So starting off, we're gonna talk a little bit about quests. We're going to be looking to revamp the new player experience to tie the player really into the lore a lot more. So making the player like a part of the first expedition, discovering the planet and the Illuvials and the obelisks and all that kind of stuff, just to really give people like this understanding of the world that they're going to be playing in through the gameplay that they're doing, not requiring them to just read a whole bunch of stuff. And of course, we are going to have a main quest line. It's going to follow the player as they pursue Arlen, who is a character in our lore, through the obelisks and learn more about the Illuvial's connection to them. So again, this is just centering a storyline around the player. The player is going to be instrumental in, driving things forward on Illuvium and like making the story happen. And then, of course, we're going to have a lot of side quests. So a lot of smaller local stories that are going to follow the plights of the ship's crew, tension between opposing factions, and uncovering all sorts of fun mysteries that are going to be everywhere. And then, of course, we have exploration. So this is going to be a big thing. Like I was mentioning earlier about, comps with Genshin Impact and Zelda Breath of the Wild. There's a lot of potential for exploration in Overworld. And so it's something that we really want to lean into. So each zone is going to have a meta tracker for exploration. If you've played like a Genshin or Tower Fantasy or something, you've probably seen this before. But it just gives people a goal to work towards who are completionists and exploration focused, to try and find all of the cool different things that will be hiding all around in the zone, and just to really like complete that bar. It's real good for achievement hunters and stuff like that. And then, of course, if we're going to be introducing a meta tracker, we also need to introduce more objectives. So stuff like treasures, landmarks, lore pieces, some cool new ruins that are going to be sprouting up around, those types of things, just to kind of really give you a lot of cool stuff to find. And of course, we don't want you just running around punching Illuvials, because that would be weird. The Illuvials are, they're a very special thing. We want them to be more of like a more of like a more rare encounter, something that you're looking for, not something that you're seeing everywhere. So we need more NPCs. So what are we going to have? We're going to have splinter groups. So there's a lot of people aboard your ship. So as the story unfolds, some of those people are going to splinter off and form opposing groups because they don't believe the same things that you believe, and you're going to have to deal with that, whether they're good guys or bad guys, whatever. There's going to be a lot of them. The corroded, so this is a whole new thing. These are drones from previous civilization that occupy the ruined labs throughout Illuvium, and they're corrupted by the big bad AI that may or may not know about. I don't know. Revenants. So revenants are malformed humanoid creatures that are created by this AI, and basically they kind of along the lines of techno zombies. If you encounter them in the world, they become feral. But if they are still within the range of the AI, which would be like in like if you ever go in one of these labs, then they would still be under control of the AI, so they'd be intelligent. And then of course Leviathans. So these are the giant creatures that are they kind of mostly exist outside of the domes. You find smaller ones on the inside of the domes. So just these Leviathans and their spawns, they can take any sort of shape. They're very multi-purpose, but we'll be seeing more of those. And then we'll talk a little bit about breaches. I mean, we have a team that's been working on this whole breach mode, which is really fun by itself. So it doesn't make sense to just not use it. So the way that we're thinking of using it is as discoverable, kind of like discoverable mini dungeons. So as you're running through the world, you might encounter a breach rift, and if you encounter a breach rift, you're going to be like, okay, I want to do that right now, because it's going to be surprising. It could have treasure in it. It could have mini bosses. these breaches will contain some of the best loot available for solo content, so it's always something that you're going to want to do. And think kind of like Rift runs in Diablo. And then we want to keep some of the roguelike elements. We are pulling some of the roguelike elements that were created for Breach to actually bring into our progression systems. But we do want to still keep some of it more in the form of like stacking buffs that make it so, the further your character is in the Breach, the stronger you're getting, so that, and like towards the end, you can fight a boss that you normally would not be able to take on. But that power only exists within the Breach. Once you leave, it goes away. So that's talking about just kind of our plans for like the overall vision. Now we're going to kind of like narrow in a little bit and talk specifically about the vertical slice. This is something that we are. This is going to be kind of like the first deliverable of this new direction. And so what we're trying to put something together relatively quickly and really prove out some of these ideas. So just some general goals for our vertical slice. We want it to be an end-to-end experience. We want it to be a solid representation of our gameplay loop. So as many of the planned elements that we have, we want to be able to put it in as time permits. Of course, game dev is not an exact science, so sometimes things take longer, sometimes things take less, but we're optimistic so far. We've seen a lot of really promising stuff that's already in there. We want to showcase our USPs. We want to, for folks who don't know what USPs are, it's unique selling points. It's like a marketing thing. So focusing on our combat, because we actually want our combat to be kind of like a bit of a unique blend of ARPG and shooter combat. Illuvials, movement, and the exploration piece. We need to be able to prove out our core loops, because if your core loop's not fun, then your game's not fun. So we need to make sure that running around and completing exploration or trying to find alluvials and then using those alluvials, in different combinations to be able to take on encounters that you weren't able to do before, like that's going to be a big part of what we're proving out in this. And then replayability is another thing that we really want to assess in here. We're really focusing on replayable systems for the vertical slice, not only because replayable systems give you more bang for your buck, but also because we want to be able to test the stickiness of those systems, because at the end of the day, they do generally end up being what people play for the most amount of time. So here's our plan. Some of you folks might have seen this map on Leaks. This is Brightland Steps. So our vertical slice is going to focus on Brightland Steps. And we are going to essentially populate the zone with content. So we're going to work on the ARPG combat. We're going to spawn it with more creatures and more stuff to find and all that kind of stuff. The great thing is the zone exists, and that's a really big step towards being able to put things in it. So that's why we kind of went with that idea. We want to try and build some sort of sample progression. We're looking more of like a microcosm of the overall progression, because the progression that we have planned is pretty deep. So we can't go super wide with it, at least for vertical slice, but we want to have something representative so that people can kind of see where we're going with it. Like I said earlier, we're focusing on exploration sandbox content, so that we can, prove out the fun of just wandering around the zone, finding stuff, fighting things, catching alluvials. Like, it's going to be a big part of the game, so we want to make sure that it's fun. And then, of course, as mentioned before, new combat and new enemies to fight. And then we're also planning to cap it off with a nice epic boss encounter, so that we can have, a taste of some of that multiplayer combat gameplay. So this is a list of planned features, and there's an asterisk here. Let's see. ARPG combat, exploration tracker, new discoverables, new enemies, ranger progression, alluvial capture, alluvial progression, weapons and gear, multiplayer, world boss, and quests if we can get to it. I want to try and throw some in, but we'll see. And then, of course, the asterisk is that some of these features might not be available at initial launch. But this is not something where we're just going to kind of like be done and not do anything with it. Like this is a first step towards everything else. So it will be added upon. It will be iterated upon. And then just a little bit about some next steps. So we have paper design already in progress, like the chart that Steven showed, looking at some of the progression mechanics. We've been just doing a lot of this brainstorming with different members of the team and just trying to come up with at least what seems the best ideas on paper. And then natural next step is to put that in prototype. We're trying to do fast and dirty prototyping to just really get the feel for systems. The disadvantage to this is that like the stuff that you prototype generally is not production code, so like you have to kind of like rebuild it production ready, but you get to the part where you find the fun a lot faster. So that's something that's actually already started. Once we have some of the prototypes in, then we're going to begin standing up the zone. We're going to start putting monsters in the zone. We're going to start putting other stuff in the zone and start running around and seeing how it feels and, just, continuing on that path. And then, of course, art assets are going to be a big part of this as well. We've already actually got a little bit of progress on that, starting with some concept art. But we've got the art team really excited and ready to dig into this and make a lot of really cool new stuff for us. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a complete game dev presentation without some caveats. This is like our initial plan, but there's always going to be iteration. Some things are not fun in the game that looked like they would be fun on paper. So we definitely will be making changes to this as we progress. We tried to set the best vision possible, but it's always going to have some iteration to it. There's also a bit of uncertainty with some of these things. Like, so certain features, they're not going to have a very good picture of how much work is actually required to do them until after we've had a chance to prototype. So those are things that, we can put out our best guess right now, but it has to be taken with a grain of salt, of course. And then prototyping is another thing. Well, prototyping, it's not an exact science. We're really focusing on game feel. We want the game to feel really good to play. And that's not something that you can just manufacture and in a time frame. Like you really need to just try things and try and fail pretty much. So sometimes prototyping happens really fast. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up with better gameplay. So it's just something to consider. And then, of course, stuff happens. In game dev, most of the time, things don't go as smooth as you want. So this project will be subject to the normal rules of reality. So we just want to make everybody aware of that. And we'll close out this thing with a nice quote by the legendary Scottish poet Robbie Burns. "The best laid plans of mice and men gang after gley." Fortunately, we have refrained from hiring any mice in our studio, so we're trying to avoid at least 50% of them. Yeah, we are at Q&A.
All right. That was good. Thank you, guys. Amazing. I liked it better even the second time, definitely. I noticed you skipped over some parts pretty quick. I don't know if you wanted to go back. I know people were, you skipped over the little drawing of the egg thing. I don't know if you wanted to dive into that or if that was on purpose. Because I was interested in that, honestly.
We can talk about that a little bit more. It's not something that's like a it's not something that is a like actual finalized design. Here, give me a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
It's just something that is a possible idea and a way that some of these things can work. Here, I'm gonna have to try and close this down
You're
and
fine.
just navigate to it manually. There we go.
There you go.
So this is the one. So did you, Stephen? Did you want me to go over this, or do you wanna tackle it?
Whatever you want, you can do it.
Cool. So basically, the idea behind this is just taking already proven mechanics from existing gacha RPGs that are very successful, that allow players to collect heroes just by doing gameplay, um, but it's at a much reduced rate of efficiency as if you were to buy additional packs. And so this is kind of like modeled after some of those systems. So in a system like this, instead of like when you capture an alluvial, instead of capturing an alluvial, maybe you capture an egg. And it doesn't have to actually be a legitimate egg, but we'll think of an egg for now. And then each egg has an incubation period, and every player only has one incubation slot. You can purchase more. So if you want to, you know, if you want to try and build your efficiency in the way that you're doing this, you can do so. If you want to just buy the packs, you can buy the packs. You've got multiple different ways to try and build your team the way that you would want. And then you have to level up these alluvials before you can fuse them. So it requires that time investment. It requires you to be like, okay, I'm going to catch these different alluvials. I can only hatch one per day. I'm probably going to find some ones that I don't like, so I'm just going to have to burn them for materials or what have you. And but hopefully, I'll be able to get some good ones. I'll fuse them together. And then, I have the next tier of them. Well, I have to make 3 of those and I have to level those all up and etc. So if you look at this, like for a free to play player in a model kind of like this, you would have 198 days to get a stage 3 alluvial, which is a long time. It's fairly comparable to what it would take in a lot of different gacha RPGs. But in every step of the way, there are ways that you can speed up the progression, and there's also thoughts of being able to exchange these speed up items, on the in-game marketplace. So if you're a player who makes a lot of in-game currency, but you're not doing real money transactions, well, somebody who's doing real money transactions could, in theory, purchase some of these items, put them up on the in-game marketplace so that they can have more in-game currency. So, just kind of it's very much based on like the Plex system from Eve, that Steven is very familiar with, where like there are some things that you can buy with real money that you can sell for in-game currency, and it's based on supply and demand, but it allows people who are more time poor to be able to use their extra funding to help with it. To answer the question of bot farms, so you'll only be able, if you can only hatch one of these per day, it would pretty severely restrict how easily a bot farm could do this. Like if a bot farm, even if a bot farm has like multiple characters, it would take them 198 days to get a stage 3 anything, and that's not even the one with the best stats. That's just any stage 3 anything. So it would be really inefficient for somebody who's trying to make money with a bot farm to try and do. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose of something like this. And like I said, the cool thing here is that this type of system exists in a lot of different games. So it's not something we have to invent from scratch. We can look to see other games that have had success, that have had problems, and draw from that.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I like it. As far as questions go, I think Steven answered one in the chat there about basically, rewarding with ILV. Steven, did you do you worry about incentivizing these things with ILV over gameplay?
Yeah, I mean, I think
basically?
there's a couple questions that are about like having to be like having to think about the game in terms of like monetary rewards and that kind of taking over motivation. And I guess I feel like for one, the gameplay can be really strong, and that can be a huge motivation if we do it well. And that's also always going to be layered with some consciousness about what kind of value you're creating. I think that happens in most games where you're investing time and you're getting something out of it. And in a Web3 game, it just means you have the opportunity to realize that value. And so it's maybe more present, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think if the gameplay is good, you feel motivated by that. And then you also kind of have this added layer of impact and meaning, knowing that the choices you make and the things you invest your time in could affect something with real value. I think people feel that value if you get that thunder fury and wow, you feel, but this like, oh, I got something super valuable. It's really important to me. But since you can't cash that value out or move it to someone else, it's like simpler. Like, it's just locked into this ecosystem. And I think that the reason people are attracted to something in a blockchain ecosystem is because they have the option to choose what they do with that value. And when it's set up in a really condescending way where you're just grinding for that value without anything fun going on, that sucks. But I think there's lots of opportunity to turn that into a strength. Like, things here actually matter, and we can even build things in a way where you have to make hard choices that have more depth because you're aware of the fact that there's some outside of Overworld potential impact to your choices. Like, I think that's exciting. I think Eve treaded that line a lot, where there was like a good funnel for real world value into it, and so people were sort of aware of it and trying to optimize around it. And I think that just made things feel more important. And here we just have the full loop where it can go out too. So you got to make good choices, and if you don't want anything you do in the game to matter in the real world, it's probably the wrong game. Like, I think that's what's exciting for us, is that it's got that reaching impact, and you have to think about what you're doing in a way that's more complex and more meaningful than you would in a traditional RPG.
Okay. Another question, which actually we got a few lined up already that I have. One is about Zero. Have you guys thought about Illuvium Zero at all, and how that can be integrated with all of this?
I mean, we haven't talked about specific integration yet, and I feel like the strong kind of indicator from the team is that this thing needs to be really compelling on its own. Like, that the at least the starting priority is not to focus on integration with other games. But that said, it feels really important to me that we find a way to make it linked and make it feel like each title has relevance and that this is a cohesive ecosystem. So we haven't talked about like specific features that are targeting the integration with Zero, but that's on the mind and feels important. Don't want to lose track of that or isolate this game completely. It's part of an ecosystem, and that's a big kind of unique point for it that needs focus. But we're at this early stage. We have to make this feel good. So that's where we're starting. It's like, let's make this combat feel good. Let's get some systems up and running that are compelling and keep people around. And then let's build out the connections to the rest of the ecosystem from there, rather than focusing on like pure economy, how fuel's used, and then losing track of whether or not combat's any fun.
Yeah. And then the age-old question, of course, which you'll probably hear a million times, but is there any indication of when you guys think a vertical slice might be even possible?
That seems like a good one for Kieran.
You're on mute, Kieran.
Sorry, say that again. we must win.
Yeah, when vertical slice, like when something like this might be realized,
I was hoping you wouldn't pass that over to me specifically, Stephen, but
Hey, I can
it's
take it. Go
so
ahead.
look. Yeah, the guys were asking beforehand, how do we feel about giving some sort of a guideline in terms of dates? And I was like, uh, really bad. Don't do that. We're setting ourselves up for failure and whatever. But the more that I think about it, we need to give you guys some sort of a guidance on when we're thinking about this. So we're close. As you can see, there's a lot of thought that has gone into this. Actually, this week we've got a couple of the developers, mainly Andre, who's going to lead this from the development side. He's going to go through all of the high level features, and he's going to pull out a very, very rough date at which we think we can deliver this vertical slice. How it sort of ties into the overall timing in terms of all of Illuvium is, as everyone knows, we need to finish Arena, and almost all of our development effort right now is going into that. The plan is to have Arena in a really, really good state by July. And as most of you know, we're going to start talking about some capital conversations are starting around that July to the start of sort of Q4 of this year. And in that time, we want to be able to get people excited and give people a good taste of what the overworld is going to be. Obviously, it's not going to be launching the next month, but it should show an investor this is the direction that we're going in. This is the size of the world that we're intending on building, and these are all the features, and this is why it's going to be so much better than what we launched back in July of last year. We need to be able to have that ammo, and that is this vertical slice. Obviously, the features aren't set in stone, but you can see that there's a lot of content that we're trying to push into this. And the exciting thing there is, and this isn't just coming from me, this is coming from both Stephen and Trevor, a lot of this stuff already exists. So from their perspective, it's just about putting it together. So we need to have a vertical slice out before, or at least during that process of us going out and raising more capital. So the timeline will come back to you guys and give you a rough guide after Andre goes through and checks out all the different features and does some rough estimates. But the reason I'm giving you the context on the capital raise side of things, you can draw your own opinion based on the fact that we have to have something playable for new people looking to come into the ecosystem and invest. So that should give you a pretty good high level timeline in itself. But we'll get more specific once Andre comes back to us and says what's possible.
Good deal. Yeah, we got a bunch more questions coming in here as well. I thought this was a really good one because even somebody asked it internally to you guys, if I remember correctly. But basically, Malo asked, would the current zones need to be enlarged? The current regions, basically, they're asking, is there enough to keep somebody engaged and exploring, with the size of the maps that we have now, basically?
I definitely think that there's enough real estate in the zones, but we have a lot of verticality, which lends to a lot of exploration and discovery. The zones that we have are probably about the same size, I would guess, as the zones in like Genshin Impact or something like that. Because they don't have like cities and things like that in them, it kind of makes it so you don't necessarily need quite as much blank space. So I think that rather than making the zones bigger, I would probably just lean more in the direction of working on the next zone, so that people can have more variety.
Okay.
That can obviously that can change if we start playtesting and we're like, yeah, this is way too small. Then yeah, we'll build it out. But my current just kind of like gut check on it is that feels like a good size zone for this type of gameplay.
I think as well, it's easy to forget, like while they're not World of Warcraft sized regions, because they are so empty now, and you're just running across them, they're plains, then you run into an alluvial, there isn't any sort of objectives as you traverse through and find new places. It feels like they're smaller than I think they are. And I guess you guys, your plan is to cram these regions with so much extra stuff that it's going to make it sort of feel bigger than what it is. Is that close or?
Yeah, they're both in text saying the same stuff basically.
Yeah, exactly. The zones will feel a lot bigger as we definitely the plan is to pull back a lot of the travel power and then bake that into the progressions. So the space we have now will get used and separated in a new way once all that travel power isn't available from the start.
Yeah, one thing, if you look at here, I'll kind of see if I can go back to that slide with the map on it. If you look at it, these different colored areas on the map are actually different traversal requirements. So that's kind of what I did with this activity right here, was to travel across the entire zone and see what it takes to get to each spot. Do I need double jump? Do I need rockets? Like, what do I need? And so we kind of carved out this thing where it's like, okay, initially, if you don't have double jump, you don't have rocket pack, you just have like your standard traversal abilities, you can access everything that's green. Once you get double jump, you can access everything that's yellow and orange. Once you get the jetpack, you can access everything that's red. And then the light red and the dark red. And then the purple is only accessible via the bubble networks that already exist in the zone. So all of these are things that we can put behind progression milestones to make it so you, like, as you are playing, you are unlocking new things, you're finding new places to explore, and it's not just you have access to everything from day one and you're going to get really tired of it. You're going to be working your way through the zone. And obviously that's not going to be the case for every zone, because like the traversal abilities you get from one zone are going to work in the next zone. But this is just kind of like a I mean, really, very truly a vertical slice. Like, just trying to have that vibe, because like there's a possibility that your first time through Brightland Steps, you're never going to be able to get to the red spot. Maybe that's something that you have to come back later for, because you get the ability to do that. Because we have so much verticality, we have the ability to do things like that and make zones even more replayable.
I know you said it in chat, but I know I've seen a couple other people ask. But just what's a vertical slice, so people know?
Yeah, so vertical slice is essentially like a small piece of a game that's meant to be representative of what the whole experience would be at the end. So the idea behind this is one zone, and we want to put as much stuff in it to make it feel like what we envision other zones to feel like, with of course the exception of like mainline story content, because that's not going to be in this. Like if we add some quests, they're probably just going to be little side quests. It's not going to be like the mainline big deal story. That's kind of something separate, but it's going to layer on top of all of this. So it's really meant to be like, if I'm a player and I'm just in the zone and maybe I finish the quests in the zone, what can I do? What can I do to keep myself entertained? And is that interesting? Is that sticky? Like, that's kind of the big drive behind it.
Yeah, I would also add to that we're in kind of an interesting place with vertical slice, because in the context I've worked on vertical slice before, it's a lot about showing it's showing potential. It's like if we take a piece and then build it out to the quality and fidelity that we're capable of, that earns confidence and gives some representation of what's possible in the game. What's interesting with the Overworld is there's already so much proven out. There's the insanely cool art, the usability, like there's lots of stuff that has been taken to kind of a polished state. And so here it's like a kind of a vertical slice of this like loop and gameplay feel, more than it is like what quality are we capable of with our art assets or with our IP or something like that, because those are already so strong. So what Trevor said with sort of the qualification that a lot of what would normally have to be shown in a vertical slice, like what is the art direction, what is possible when it comes to the assets, that kind of stuff, like so strong already. So there's sort of a section of that we're trying to flesh out and show before we expand to having all the zones filled and having all the enemies possible and all the items possible. We're trying to say this is what we can support that really high quality that's already here with from a system side and a content side.
Okay, let's see what other questions. I mean, I think you guys answered most of the obvious questions, at least. I mean, you basically said the movement is likely going to change, at least the lock behind progression for some things. So, unless there's any questions that you guys saw that I missed. Oh, one about AI NPCs and like how you guys feel about those, and do you think that's something that will be something that we'll use or that should be used,
So like initially, it's probably not something that that I would look to use initially. The thing about using AI conversations for NPCs is that, generally speaking, NPCs are there to deliver a very specific message to you. And so if you can just talk to NPCs about anything, it gets really difficult to distinguish who you should be talking to and who you don't need to be talking to. And it can make things very confusing. So I could see some interesting space for, like, if we ever introduced like a humanoid companion character, for something like that to have AI so that you can talk to them and like they can have their own responses and stuff like that. But having everybody in the world just have like general AI dialogue, I don't think that it's proven out to the point where it would actually be useful for the game or make the game feel any better. It's not something that I'm opposed to, though. It's just it has yet to prove its usefulness.
Yeah. Well, if anything, AI is definitely speeding up at insane speeds, right? So, all right. Well, I think I know controller. I can answer the controller thing. I don't know. They've always wanted. Andre's got controller working again, so I know that's something they want to work. So, but yeah, I think that's all the questions we got. I know Kieran, and we're a little bit over time since we had the Discord issues at the beginning, and I think Kieran, you got to go, but I don't see any more questions immediately, so I think we can probably just wrap it up here if everyone is good. Kieran, do you have anything to say before we get out of here?
No, just every time I see that presentation, I get more and more excited. I think I'm definitely on the side of when. I really want to get in and try this out. I think we all, if you're watching this or you're internal or wherever you are, if you play the Overworld, it has so much potential. And I think what these guys are doing in their expertise to be able to come in and piece it all together and make it make sense and make it fun and replayable with all of these new systems. It's what we've all been waiting for. I love playing Arena. I do it every single day, but this was sort of our flagship, our main game that was going to get as many people as possible into the ecosystem. And I think, you know, these are the guys to do it. So now it's just a matter of waiting. And yeah, I'm really excited to get started on this vertical slice. I think the guys are doing an exceptional job. So congrats.
Yeah. Cool. Good deal.
Thanks.
Good deal. Yeah, again, thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Stephen, for coming and sharing your presentation. I don't know if we're going to be able to share it. That's going to be up to the people that are higher up than me. This is all, you know, live and recorded, so you guys can rewatch this anytime. You know, a lot going on. You know, we have next week, we have another podcast, and we'll have the winners of the raffle getting picked during that podcast. So that'll be big. 200 ILV there. The rewards are going. There's tournaments going. I think Hype ILV or Hyperion Guild, they're hosting a tournament this weekend. So yeah, a lot going on, you guys, and I appreciate everyone coming out and hanging with us, and you know, showing your support for Illuvium. And yeah, thank you guys for showing up and showing out, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks.